Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the reminders of Ramadan. We will continue with the theme of Laylatul Qadr. And today I want to remind you about the importance of the heart. So the theme will be the heart. Part of Laylatul Qadr is to reevaluate the nights of Ramadan and to give them a position and an importance that otherwise perhaps it would have been lost. The night is also a place, a moment during the day where not only we feed the body that has been fasting, but we also feed the heart. And the idea of feeding the heart, improving the heart, purifying the heart, this is a recurrent theme, a very important matter in trying to understand our Islam, our path. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that there is one in the body, there is an organ that if it is healthy, the body will be healthy, but if it is unhealthy or corrupt, then the entire body will be unhealthy. And that is the heart. This extraordinary position granted to the heart speaks in a manner that exceeds the typical understanding that we have in the West of the heart, referring to love, the symbol, the universal symbol of love, speaking about the heart, speaking with the heart, following the heart, follow your heart. These are typical expressions. To be in love is obviously a matter of the heart. In Islam, it's something more. It has a cognitive capacity. And this is expressed in the ayat of Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I have given you the ears to hear and I have given you the heart to aql. So in as much as the ears serve the purpose of hearing, the heart has the capacity of aql. Typically, the word aql is mistranslated as intellect. It's not intellect because it's not the brain. It doesn't express itself in ideas. It's not conceptual. But the way of knowing of the heart is unique, and that's why the expression aql cannot be translated as intellect, but is the cognitive power of the heart. Simply, it cannot be translated. There is nothing similar to the heart in Islam. Just this capacity of the heart to understand, and the understanding of the aql is so important that it changes our complete understanding of how we view the world and how do we see human cognition, our way of understanding the world. Since we understand with this expression of aql that there is an intellectual way of understanding the world based on the sensory and reason, which is also part of the sensory according to us, and then there is the aql, the heart that looks at matters in a completely different way. It's not conceptual, it's not by ideas, but it's by two forces, love and fear. Both love and fear have cognitive capacity. They are capable of transforming the meaning of things above and dominating reason. Now this is important because the very idea that there is a form of understanding that is superior to reason, it changes our complete understanding of the world. If the heart dominates reason, it means that there is something that can influence and determine the way we perceive the world. is no longer the end of knowledge, but is an instrument, is an influencing element. What is really determining is the heart. The fact that somebody who's in love can behave irrationally, they will, if they are truly in love, is empirically can be demonstrated, because that's exactly what happens. When someone is in love, he doesn't, according to other people, he doesn't behave rationally. He can do things that they are crazy. You have to jump this wall and then defeat 3 dragons and then climb up a tower that cannot be climbed. And the person who's in love will say, yes, I want to do it. He doesn't see the difficulties, he only sees her, the object of the beloved. It doesn't matter where he looks, everything reminds him of her. Everything points to her. The meaning of everything is now tainted in terms of the beloved. That can be a woman, that can be power, that can be a man, that can be money, that can be influence, fame, etc. That which is in your heart is going to determine the meaning of things, and is going to alter the way in which you perceive matters. It has become clear, and the same thing with fear. Fear is the same. If you are under fear, you will not behave rationally. This society, for example, is run by fear. They can manipulate entire populations just using fear, and the people will behave against their own interests irrationally only because of fear. And that explains lots of behaviors that they have been rationalized, but they're clearly irrational. Reason can justify anything. And how this thing is determined and how this irrational behavior comes into place, it has been explained in the West with the word unconscious. Unconscious is just a sack that simply proves that they have no idea what they are discussing. There's no unconscious determining and changing your way of behavior. It is the heart. While the unconscious is precisely unconscious only to be interpreted by those priests gifted with the capacity to read your unconscious, and therefore a whole profession of psychologists and psychiatrists, then in Islam we speak about the heart, and there is a science, and the science of this is tasawwuf. So, having understood the importance that the heart has, and recognizing that if it is ill, the whole body is ill, and if it is healthy, the whole body is healthy, then we want to understand what are we supposed to do with it, in which way we can feed the heart. What are the things that it will purify the heart, or it will make it healthy? Now, the very idea that the heart it can change is in the Quran itself, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in numerous occasions speaks about the illness of the heart, the hardness of the heart, is explaining or speaking about conditions of the heart, that they are good or bad, or they can be improved, or they can become worse. So if there is a path, and there is a way of purifying the heart, and there is a way of making it healthy, what is that? And this is nothing but becoming closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Becoming closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is acquiring knowledge. And you acquire knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in as much as you are capable of loving Allah and fearing Allah. So the heart is itself the instrument of knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the words of Heidegger, when he says, a thinking that cannot think the truth is not thinking at all, I repeat, a thinking that cannot think the truth is not thinking at all, and therefore reason is not thinking. The only thinking that is left is akal, because akal is based on the truth. Instead of building up from the experience into theories or concepts or ideas, we take a reverse approach, and we start with the certainty of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. We start with the truth, and we expand in concentric circles about the realities and the understanding of the world. So we start from the truth downwards into the realities of this world. We therefore based everything on the truth itself. Feeding the heart is increase our certainty, increase our submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You become closer to Him in as much as you become more a slave of Him. And here is a path of knowledge completely differentiated from the rational thinking. And it's a thinking that it opens to you an understanding of the world that is far superior to anything that the reason can offer you. In fact, reason is always limited to the very experiential capacities that man has. The foundation is that the man is the center, that the world is whatever it is that we see. We are the measurer. We are the ones that judge the world, while the knowledge of Allah is the recognition that we are not here. We are not the measurers of the world. We are not the judges of the world. We are the ones being judged. It's a complete reverse approach in which we are not the observers. We are the ones being observed. And that means placing knowledge and placing the haqq, the truth, at the very beginning of the journey. You open up. In as much as you open up to the truth, in as much as you open up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in that much you become wise, and you become wiser. So clearly it's a completely different way. During this month of Ramadan, we are supposed to feed the heart, and Laylatul Qadr is precisely one of the ideal moments in order to feed the heart. The best way of feeding the heart is the prayer. There is no form of dhikr higher than the prayer. The prayer is the epitome, the perfected form of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore, itself, the prayer becomes a path in which what we are seeking is knowledge, where we are seeking is akal, but we do it with the heart. So there is a difference between praying with the limbs, following a ritual, or there is a way of praying with the heart. And praying with the heart during this night of Laylatul Qadr has special rewards. Khayrun min alfi shahr, better than 1,000 months. It is a time in which that thing that you are seeking throughout the year, which is to become closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, activate your heart, purify your heart by means of the prayer, is going to be rewarded especially. So remember the heart, and remember that you have an instrument within you that is inclined to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is inclined to the truth, is inclined to the light. All you have to do in order to activate the heart is to love Allah and to fear Allah. And in order to achieve this, all you have to do is to eliminate, silence reason, silence the nafs, pacify the nafs, and just open your heart to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the perfected way of the prayer, in which not only the heart isn't active, the heart is active and the limbs are active, and then you prostrate, and then you bow and you prostrate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You recite Quran, and you open your heart to Him to the point where you recognize, you become witness of, you pray Allah as if you see Him, although you cannot see Him, but He is watching you. The changing between the observer to the observed, you feel the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala watching you, and this is by necessity overwhelming. The proof that you have attained these states of ihsan is that you cannot feel it without crying. The tears are the sign that you are in the right path, and then you continue in this direction. and then you open still more by the very virtue of the openings that Allah keeps giving you, the halals. And if you continue and you persist in the prayer, this is what is important about this prayer at night, that you can repeat and repeat and repeat, and that you can go on like the waves against the shore, and the tide bringing the water deeper and deeper into the land. So it is the advancement of the heart in the repetition of the prayer, not by the bare numbers, but by the insistence of the heart that desires more. And in as much as you advance in this matter, you acquire knowledge of Allah, which is akal. And with this akal, then you can change the way you understand the world. It is the time to feed the heart, not just to feed the body, but during these nights of Ramadan, feed your heart, which is far more important for you to feed than the body itself. For if it is healthy, the whole body is healthy, and if it is ill, the whole body is ill. Feed your heart, make it healthy by the prayer of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially in this night of Laylatul Qadr, that could be any day. Now Fatiha. Bisirri wa barakati, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم.